Support for the Leadoff on WGLT and WGLT.org comes from the Central Illinois Regional Airport, offering seasonal nonstop service to Denver. Outdoor concerts, hiking, and more activities in the Mile High City are one flight away on Frontier Airlines. Close, convenient, Sierra. More at CIRA.com.
The Red Cross is concerned about an increase in drownings as summertime approaches. That's one of the things you need to know to start your day for Thursday, May 16th. I'm Lauren Warnicki, and this is WGLT's The Leadoff. Let's lead off with a rise in accidental drownings. WGLT's Eric Stock reports racial disparities in drownings have gotten worse, and a Bloomington-Normal youth organization hopes to reduce those risks through more access to swim safety instruction.
Drownings increased over 10% starting in 2020, the start of the COVID pandemic. Executive Director for the Central Illinois branch of the American Red Cross, Lynn Haruska, says that likely meant more people swimming in unsupervised settings like streams, lakes, and backyard pools.
It's at least a 2-year trend with significant year-over-year increases where we need to be paying attention. So I think we're going to, part of what we want to do is be reaching out into some of those more vulnerable communities and make sure that they have access and information.
The Centers for Disease Control also indicates racial disparities in drownings have worsened recently, with Black and Hispanic children experiencing increased risk. Drownings remain the leading cause of death for all children 4 and under in the U.S. The Bloomington-Normal YMCA is rolling out a free new Whale's Tales program to help instruct children in safe swimming practices. Here's Aquatics Director Will Kent.
It is truly a life-saving skill, and it's just so important that you have this knowledge. Teaching children to swim is just so important because then they can enjoy the water safely and confidently, and then we can all take a deep breath too if we educate everybody.
The YMCA also offers free water safety courses for adults and CPR training. Drownings remain the leading cause of death for children 4 and under in the U.S. With the reporting from Colin Hardman, I'm Eric Stock.
Here are some other stories we're following in the WGLT newsroom. A survey of community leaders in Bloomington-Normal shows the housing shortage is one of the area's most pressing concerns. Central Illinois Congressman Darren LaHood and Eric Sorensen say they're pleased to hear the U.S. Postal Service has delayed plans to move Peoria's sorting facility to the Chicago suburbs at least through the end of the year. And those with a sweet tooth will be sad to hear the Chocolatier candy store in Bloomington is set to close next week. The store's owner says he's ready to retire and could not find a buyer. You can find more on these stories at WGLT.org. Nearly a third of the world's population lives in countries that are not free. That's according to the nonpartisan think tank Freedom House. And the trend isn't encouraging as more countries slide away from democracy with the rise of autocrats. Illinois State University political scientist Ali Riaz has co-authored a new book that looks at how that happens. It's called How Autocrats Rise: Sequences of Democratic Backsliding. In this interview with WGLT's Charlie Schlenker, Riaz talks about the symptoms of democratic backsliding.
The backsliding takes place when we see effective polarization. Effective in the sense that polarization is nothing new in the history. And in many cases, what happened is this polarization is based on ideology. That I don't agree with you. I don't agree with this or that. One political party, one group of people, that is normal, natural in terms of democracy. But when we see that polarization has become emotionally attached, effective one, that I not only disagree with you, you are my enemy. When we started to see this kind of polarization, pernicious polarization, that becomes the trigger point in some ways, or at least creates the environment within which we can see the rise of the would-be autocrats. The second social factor or political factor that you can talk about is the confidence on institutions, democratic institutions. When people tend to think that these institutions are not delivering them, particularly with respect to their rights, when they think that this democracy or these institutions are captured by a group of people, then they become disillusioned, they become critical of democracy. And again, that is the moment when we see the role of the individuals.
Other scholars have put relative democratic and authoritarian models on a sliding scale. How does your book add to this debate? What's new about calculating the rise of autocrats?
Most important contribution that we think we have made in our book is to explain the sequence of how it happens. What are the things that would tell us that it is sliding towards autocracy? That sequence that we have tried to look into. If you look at the existing literature, everyone agrees to it, that democratic erosion, democratic backsliding, autocratization, however you put it, is not a single event. It is incremental. It happens almost every day. It's not that suddenly one fine morning you would see that some autocrats have arrived from somewhere. Our argument is this, that there is no universal model, but first thing is to look at the context, this polarization that we talked about. Look at why people are accepting this. There must be a reason that within that we see the rise of the individuals, would be autocrats.
Your case studies involve Turkey, Hungary, Bangladesh, and Bolivia, and you say that institutional and ideological drivers have to act in tandem, and that explains more than other models of autocratization. Why do you think they are dependent on each other? The rhetoric of ideology and the process of limiting voices by institutional means, of limiting competition by institutional means.
So they look at the institutions. What are the institutions we are talking about? Executive aggrandizement. Executive branch captured the power. It makes the legislative body pretty much a rubber stamp. We have seen how they capture the judiciary, so to speak. And we have seen how they persecute the opposition through legal and extra-legal measures. So these are the things we think the institutional ones. These are the ones which have been highlighted more. But our question is, how do they get there and how they keep their power?
That's Illinois State University political scientist Ali Riaz speaking to WGLT's Charlie Schlenker about Riaz's book, How Autocrats Rise. You can hear more of their conversation at WGLT.org. And before we let you go, the McLean County Board meets tonight. On the agenda, a new solar farm and a new clean energy financing program for businesses. That's it for today. I'm Lauren Warnicki. You can subscribe to the Leadoff on the NPR app or wherever you get your podcasts.